Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 16 of Framing the Force here on the Aspect Network. I'm one of your hosts, Alex Batts, and joining me every week to discuss a galaxy far, far away is Robby Weidemann. Robby, how are you doing?
I'm doing good, man. I'm doing good. I'm excited for this episode.
Hell yeah, same.
So this week we're in celebration of Shot by Shot starting episode 7. We're going to be discussing our thoughts on the sequel trilogy. So let's kick off the show by discussing how this era of Star Wars began with The Force Awakens. Alex, where does this film rank within the trilogy for you, and what are your overall thoughts on the film?
Okay, I'm going to start with the second part of that question first. I love this movie a lot. It's incredible. It's one of my favorite movies. It's also the first Star Wars movie that I got to see in theaters.
Oh, okay.
'Cause I think that I might have told the story in our very first episode, which you should go check out if you haven't listened to it or watched it. But I did not see Revenge of the Sith in theaters, even though I was old enough to, because at the time my dad was like, I'll go take you to see Star Wars if you learn how to ride a bike.
I
And
do remember
I did
this.
not
Yeah.
learn how to ride a bike in time. So I did not see Revenge of the Sith in theaters, which is a big bummer. But yeah, so The Force Awakens is the first Star Wars movie that I got to see in theaters. And I mean, it was incredible. Like, it's a fantastic experience. I think it gets, I don't know if it's necessarily like flack for it, but I even use this description. It's like it's a New Hope, but slightly different, basically. Like, it's kind
That's
of the same.
that's my. I'm glad you say that because a lot of people like that's my biggest gripe with it, and a lot of people like who are big fans of the film are like, "No, it's not." Blah blah blah. But I'm
It
glad you at
definitely
least
is.
acknowledge it. But
It a
continue what you
hundred
were saying. I'm
like
glad you brought that up, man.
it's weird because like I don't like I get it as a gripe with it, and I kind of am in that camp, but I also like I don't view it as a bad thing necessarily. Like, A New Hope's great, and
Yeah,
like this movie is great. It was a really smart thing to do, honestly. Like,
it's
Star
a
Wars
safe
hadn't.
bet. I mean, if you're
Yeah,
relaunching the
exactly.
franchise.
Yeah, you're just like remixing the same thing that started it in the first place, right? Just with a new cast of characters, a couple of returning ones, of course, but like I think it was a smart thing to do and a safe thing to do. But yeah, 100% is A New Hope, just like a
Mhm.
little bit different. Like, there's a couple of things slightly different about it, but yeah, I mean, I love the movie. I think it's like, from a production standpoint, the production standpoint is one of the big reasons that the sequel trilogy in general is my
Yeah,
favorite
all three of them are
trilogy.
great.
Yeah, like Star Wars has never looked, sounded, whatever better than they do in these films.
Mhm.
The only exception is maybe Rogue One, and like that's just like
I will
also.
say I'm not a huge on the lightsaber looks, but yes, you're correct in everything in terms of looks.
Yeah, I think the lightsabers are tough. I love the way they look in this,
I
but
like that they have a little bit of weight to them, but I don't I
yeah,
miss like that prequel glow they had.
yeah.
That
See,
that
I'm
just
not.
really like just it just flows right across the screen. The frames are these big chunks of
Mhm.
big triangle chonkers like
I don't. So I don't really know. I guess I do probably have a preference for the sequel trilogy lightsabers overall. But I think that just comes from my overall like bias towards the sequel trilogy, like in general, and me
mhm,
liking the entire aesthetic of it. Because like, I mean, the prequel lightsabers you can't go wrong with, and like the OT have that classic, like it's the classic lightsabers, so like those are
yeah,
great. The only lightsabers in live action that I haven't really liked are like most of the Disney Plus stuff. I don't think they look great. But that's a
the
whole other
glow sticks.
conversation. Yeah, yeah. I do really love the weight that they have and like them swinging around and that kind of stuff. But yeah, just like the whole look and feel and sound and everything of the movie is fantastic. It's one of the reasons I have these in such high regard. It introduced two of my favorite Star Wars characters, but one that like immediately became one of my favorite characters in Kylo Ren. My cat
Mhm.
is named Kylo, so that should tell you something there.
Kylo is an absolute standout in that film for
Like
sure.
he's fantastic. And I also, dude, I go back and forth so much about which Kylo look is my favorite. And I was making gifs earlier from this movie to like quote your post on Shot by
Mhm.
Shot with like the frames, and just like, dude, his look in this is so good. Like it.
It's
ah
I like that it's a little beat down, ragged looking, kinda thrown together
it's
look.
got such a texture to it too that's like
Yeah,
so it's so
I
nice.
like it because it's different and it's not what you would normally see out of a traditional dark side user. I do like, when he's more clean and, like,
Hmm.
I like his outfit in 9, but I like that the hood's always up in this film. He needs a hood to look really friggin'
Yeah,
badass.
the
Um
hood and the shoulder cape, dude, get out of here.
Yeah,
Like, I'm
no,
a
that
sucker
yeah,
for a shoulder
exactly.
cape too.
I wish
Like,
I wish the cape was longer, but, like, as a shoulder cape, it's perfectly fine. But, like,
yeah.
these are little nitpicks. It's a great outfit. It's different. It's like I said, it's ragged and kinda just thrown together. It's
Yeah, and he
not
has
as
like
clean and, like, he's, like, second dog in or third dog. I don't know where he is on the totem pole in the first order at this point, but
Yeah.
for being the first order in this very crisp military, um, he just stands out. Like his uniform just does not mesh with everybody else's, and I like that about him. So it doesn't belong, but it works for him.
Yeah, I agree. And it also like he's got the like the waist like skirt going on too,
Mhm.
and like the way that all that worked, like it's just it's such a good look. Also his mask, instantly iconic. Like it's hard to do. I mean, I say it's hard to do, and then I think about the fact that Star Wars has like 10 of the different mask designs that are all like really cool and unique in
Yeah.
their own ways. But like, it's always it's an exciting thing to see like a new mask design that catches, right? Like you have Vader's
Mhm.
obviously, and then like Revan's another one that's super iconic. Nihilus has
Kamir
one.
Kamir was a big,
Yeah, like his was
instant
really
favorite.
yeah, his was really cool. Like Kylo's also just like it's got the
Mhm.
it factor with it where you're like, oh, that's sick
I what I
looking.
love is his little, like, the silver grill.
Oh, dude,
Like,
it look yeah, like
it's like that's its own thing. No one else is like that. And
mhm.
I mean, I guess the Vader comparisons come and start and end with he's wearing a helmet. I mean,
Yeah,
there's other
right.
Vader comparisons directly to Kylo, but in terms of his
He's
outfit,
still got the
I mean,
general
he's
like on the helmet sides, like the general shape of
oh,
it is
same
very
similar silhouette, but I mean, I don't know.
yeah.
I think his helmet is completely unique to him, completely different,
Yeah.
and I love really random. I drive a Hyundai Elantra, and specifically like the 2017, like that time period, the front, like the grill, literally looks like his
Looks
helmet. Like
that's
when
so
I
funny.
like if I had gotten a black one, I would just straight up be driving around Kylo Ren's helmet.
That is hilarious, honestly. Yeah, so I mean, love his character a lot. His lightsaber is one of the coolest lightsabers ever. Um, it's fantastic.
Mhm.
Yeah, there's a lot that I love, and like the forest duel at the end is also like one of my
Damn snow
argue.
planets.
Yeah, like it's one of my that whole set looks so good though. Like I
Yeah.
remember watching the behind the scenes for it too, and like the way they pulled that together is
Yeah, it's
fantastic.
awesome.
So like that whole sequence is just incredible. It does not GIF very well, which is super unfortunate.
The
Well,
white.
yeah, like just the colors don't like keep because it's like the white contrast, but then also pretty
The
dark in
glows.
general. Yeah, and so like a lot of stuff gets blown out or just
Mhm.
lost a lot of the time. So I'll mess around with that more when you eventually get to those shots.
I
Um,
got a while.
yeah. Um, but yeah, so all of that to say, I really, really love this movie. I adore it. It literally made it onto my list. So like for years, basically since The Dark Knight came out. It started with The Dark Knight, but I would like go to sleep watching a movie. And for a long time, it was just The Dark Knight. And then it was like the other two Dark Knight trilogy movies
What a
also.
film to fall asleep to. Great choice.
Oh, dude, incredible. Like literally was, yeah, it's fantastic. But so would do that, but then eventually I started like changing it up and would watch like different movies. It would normally be like within like five that I'd kind
Yeah,
of
I was
rotate
gonna
or
say like
whatever.
3 to 5, yeah.
Yeah, and so but The Force Awakens was in that rotation for a little bit. Like there was a while when I was watching like The Dark Knight and The Force Awakens and Skyfall actually were like kind of the
Mhm.
three that I had in rotation. But so I adore The Force Awakens.
There you go.
That
It's got
said,
Alex's before bed seal of approval.
yeah, yeah, exactly. It got like The Force Awakens, Skyfall, Across or Into the Spider-Verse, The Dark Knight, The Batman, like
Great lineup.
they're all oh, yeah, incredible movies. But all of that to say, this is my least favorite of the three, I think.
Oh,
which
wowee. That
which
actually I thought it was gonna be your number 2, I'm not gonna lie.
yeah,
Which
so
really surprised I'm excited now. I'm
and
really
we'll get
excited.
into it when we get to the Rise of Skywalker in a little bit. It's really close between the two of them. I will say that. Like it's basically a toss up as to like which of those has the 2 or 3 slot. Um, and I should probably do a full rewatch again pretty soon to like really
I
solidify
need to do a
that.
full rewatch, but
But
I'm
like
also just kinda going through it right now.
yeah, I think that it's my third out of the
Okay.
three. I think I put The Force Awakens at the bottom, which is crazy. I can't imagine like telling myself that like
I'm
when
I'm
The Force Awakens made it into my like
I am
nighttime like watch.
genuinely shocked, and I know we're gonna talk about more Rise of the Resistance stuff or Rise of the
Yeah.
Resistance, that's a ride. Rise of Skywalker stuff.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, no, I didn't pin you for
Yeah.
having that above The Force Awakens, especially as a big Last Jedi fan. I'm really curious to hear your thoughts on that later.
Yeah, that's why I wanted to front load it with me like singing its praises
Yeah,
because
but
by
I
no
kinda like
means
the
do
front
I
loading.
like not like it. I adore that movie, but of the three,
Pick
I
someone at
do
the bottom.
yeah, someone has to be there. Like these are all like 9 out of 10 to 10 out of 10 movies for me, honestly.
Wow,
I
so our
do
rankings are polar
Yeah, that's why I
completely.
was like, I'm
Wow.
very confident that
I
we
thought we were gonna share that one. I'm not gonna lie. I thought we were
yeah,
gonna share that one.
I do have my gripes with Rise of Skywalker, but again, we'll get into it. What are your thoughts on The Force Awakens? What is your overall thing
My
with it?
so like we said at the top, it's really solid. It's a safe movie. It
Mhm.
definitely it had the most hype for a movie probably since The Phantom Menace. Like, and I'm not talking
Oh,
a Star
yeah,
Wars movie. I'm talking about a
just
movie in
general.
general. Yeah,
Yeah.
like which is
Oh, I
awesome.
remember that trailer dropping, dude.
Oh, I remember the
Oh,
teaser dropping. I was sitting in gym class, man. I don't know if I was in gym class or just in my school's gym, but I remember I was done.
locked
I
in.
checked out for the day. Checked
Yeah,
out. Probably ran that back 5, 10 times on a loop. Doesn't matter. Done. Like you check me out of school. I mean I don't remember if for when I saw this movie in theaters if I was pulled out of school early for not or early
mhm,
for it or not, or if I went right after school. Because I know my dad has pulled me out of school for Star Wars, Indiana Jones, like I don't know
incredible.
which ones or whatever. My dad was a G with that. My
That's
dad
awesome.
absolutely hooked it up.
That's very
I
clutch.
remember specifically my favorite one, even though it was my least favorite film I've gotten pulled out of school early for because it was the fourth Indiana Jones.
Oh, yeah, it's rough.
but but my dad told me going into school that day, he goes, "I'm taking." He already, I knew we are going. Where I was not having a full day of school, but
Mhm.
he goes, "You tell your teachers you have a doctor's appointment, and if they ask, it's Doctor Jones." It was great. That was my get out of school early. He told me, he just tell him straight up. I had a doctor's appointment, and I mean, it wasn't technically, it was a nice little stretch of the truth, but it wasn't
Yeah,
a lie.
that's
but
awesome.
no, yeah, I definitely really enjoyed the energy that came with it. The just it's something fresh, something new. We're back into this galaxy we love. Production values are second to maybe Rogue One and The Last Jedi. But other
Yeah,
than that,
yeah.
it's just a work of art. I have been slowly finding a greater appreciation for it. Just as I do with all of these films, going through it each shot,
Mhm.
and specifically this week was we started it on shot by shot, and the intro, the first scene
It's
is
so
just
strong.
absolutely like just came out swinging. And
Yeah.
I mean like not even just the first scene, the character introductions in this film specifically compared to any other film I've seen. I don't I don't know if I can think of a movie that has better just character introductions across the board. Kylo's coming in like his
Hot, bro.
first
Yeah.
comes in literally swinging like
Yeah.
his entrance, Finn's entrance. Finn's is just is bone chilling.
Mhm.
That the smearing of the blood on his mask,
Mhm.
that I don't know. That one's a really hard hitting scene for me. I don't know what it is. It just kind of like I guess humanizes the stormtroopers a little bit. Like they're
Yeah.
not like these just. I mean, they're still people, and I mean, like even though they're horrible people, they have they still have their buddies, and like they're still friends with each other and stuff. And I
Mhm.
don't know Homeboy's full lore other than the fact that he died and definitely gave Finn a come
Some
to your
trauma.
senses moment. Yeah, I don't know
Yeah.
anything other than that. But I mean, like he clearly, I mean, he had to have had some kind of connection with Finn, and I don't know. I just really like it's a really like touching scene for I mean, for me, it's touching in the sense of not how it necessarily is intended to be touching, but it's like, damn, they didn't have to go that powerful and that hard for
Mhm.
a little stormtrooper death.
Also, what a
But
visual, dude. The
yeah,
blood
it's
smeared on the, like, helmet,
incredible,
and then
and
him, like,
it's
walking
a great way
away.
to distinguish who Finn is as
Oh, yeah.
underneath the armor.
It's
It's great.
it's so practical, and then
Yeah.
also, like, it does so many things just
Yeah,
s
no,
with
I
such a
mean,
small thing.
that is such a every time I watch a scene, I 10 out of 10, absolutely incredible. I was really
Yeah.
happy we ended the day that scene was posting with the blood on Finn getting the blood on his helmet. That was a fun little ending spot. But no, and then I haven't even touched on Ray's intro.
Oh, yeah.
Ray's intro, you get her entire life story in a minute and a half of silence.
Mhm.
Like, what
And
the
that
hell?
theme,
How do you do yeah,
oh, the
I mean,
theme.
John Williams is just John Williamsing. Man,
Yeah.
there's no other way to put it. I watched this documentary, or I'm halfway through his documentary, and, I think it was James Mangold. He said, every one of John Williams' soundtracks would be the best soundtrack of any other composer. Like, that would be their
Oh,
top
yeah, like, it
work,
would be their best
but
work.
it's just a regular soundtrack for John. Like, which,
Yeah.
and I mean, the same goes for The Force Awakens, but I mean, this is definitely one of his better Star Wars albums. I mean,
Yeah.
between Rey's theme, Kylo's theme, the Resistance theme, I mean, it is just
Banger after banger.
after banger, man.
Yeah.
I can go on and on, but from start to finish, like in terms of just how this film was produced and put together and everything, absolutely incredible. Top tier. Lucasfilm and ILM coming back from a 10-year absence, reminding everybody that we're still top dogs.
That they're them.
They are still that guy. I mean, it wasn't really I wasn't
Yeah.
necessarily an absence for either company. I mean, ILM was doing stuff for Marvel, whoever, ILM does more than just Star Wars. And
Yeah.
Lucasfilm did Indie in 2008. So it's still, but there's still kind of a long absence, and they had just been bought by Disney. I mean, that's a whole other thing. You got a whole other head honcho now. You got the mouse instead of
Mhm.
George. So
Yeah.
definitely a completely different. It was just a fresh. It was fresh. But it was a familiar kind of fresh because, like you said, and this is my biggest gripe with it, which is why it falls so low on my overall Star Wars ranking. But we're not here
Mhm.
for that today. Um, but it is a very safe, uh, new retelling of A New Hope. I mean,
Mhm.
you got your MacGuffin in it with the Death Star plans compared to Luke.
Yeah.
I mean, you got the um the droid storing something really important that everyone is after.
Yeah.
Your big old
The Star
super
Killer
weapon.
base.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
it's
I
just
mean, there's
another it's
just
just a bigger Death Star. The
exactly, and
plans
I
to it are with the droid. You gotta
you
find
got
the
your
droid.
you got your I don't know, I'm force sensitive, but I am force sensitive, and I pick up this stuff pretty quickly. Protagonist who is just alone on a desert, basically with big dreams.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's
it,
all there. All the pieces are
it's
there. They're just,
yeah,
like, rearranged a little bit, some of
rearranged a little
them,
bit,
and,
mixed up.
like,
You got
a
your
couple different
trio
things.
of heroes, but one that is completely different is that they never meet, or they're never all on screen together or whatever
Yeah.
in this film, which is really definitely a strange approach. But yeah, you got your typical trio of people. I mean, it's a very similar film, but
Mhm.
it's still like it did plenty to make it feel new and its own, and it was a safe bet, and that for buying this historic franchise and coming out with its first thing in 10 years, it's probably a good idea to take a little bit of a safe bet. And I
Yeah.
think they approached it well, and they laid the foundation for the trilogy extremely well.
Mhm.
And yeah, I mean, just a really good film.
It
Um
also moves. Like,
yeah,
it
there's no like
it's a
drags or anything.
2.5 hour movie, and it does not really feel like it. Like,
Yeah.
it goes.
It
Um,
it definitely doesn't get lost really. I mean, if anything, and this is like a 2-minute scene, I feel like a little bit of Maz's castle, like not the
yeah, that's
battle
the only thing
outside.
that, like,
Yeah, not
pops
the
out of my
only
mind. I'm like,
the
"It's
battle
kinda
outside
slows."
is totally fine.
Yeah,
But
but,
it
like, the
definitely
interior
hits
for
a
a
little bit
second.
of a speed bump there, but it's such a short enough
Yeah, it's, like,
sequence, it's not
2 or
that big
3
of a deal.
minutes.
So
Yeah.
that's the only time it kinda, like, jumps out at me, in my opinion. I mean, of
Mhm.
course, the beginning is a little slow, but you gotta introduce 19 years worth of things going by and new characters and everything. So
Mhm.
it's that's totally okay because it still
I don't
moves, it's still consistent. It's, like, not as action-packed or whatever, like, more
I don't
stuff
like
in Jakku in the deserts, but, like, you gotta tell that.
yeah, I don't love the tentacle monster thingies.
Oh, the
I
Rathar is kind of a
I always
random scene.
I always forget that that scene is in the movie,
Yeah,
like,
definitely kinda random and whatever, but,
it's fine.
I guess Disney wanted their own little creature monster thing.
So,
But
where does this one rank for you in the
it's,
as into the
it's
sequels?
it's in the sequels, it's number 2 for me,
Okay,
but
interesting.
yeah.
Interesting. So, any final thoughts on that one before we move
No,
on?
that's I'm ready to go into this next one, which it's I know where it ranks for you, and I think everybody else who listens knows where it ranks for me. So
Yeah, so we're going to take a quick break, but when we return, we will discuss our thoughts on one of my favorite Star Wars films, The Last Jedi. We'll be right back.
Hey, Aspect listener, I'm Kate.
And I'm Alex, enjoying this show here on the Aspect Network.
Then check out Bending the Narrative.
We're your one-stop shop for all things Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Each week, we break down an episode from the series and discuss our favorite moments, with a particular focus on the characters and narrative threads that tie the series together.
In addition to discussing the original series, we're also tackling things from The Legend of Korra to the novels and the comics as well.
Now join us as we travel into the world of Team Avatar and discuss one of the greatest animated series of all time on Bending the Narrative here on the Aspect Network.
Now, back to the show. Welcome back to Framing the Force. Before the break, we discussed the first film in the sequel trilogy, The Force Awakens. Now we wanted to discuss the most divisive Star Wars film, The Last Jedi. Robby, what are your thoughts on episode 8?
I don't know how many thoughts I have that are fresh for everybody because
Yeah,
we did
so
have a fat our underrated episode was probably more than half of the episode was for The Last Jedi.
yeah, very
But
correct.
it is without a doubt in my mind the best looking, and I mean this is so cliche, but it's the best looking Star Wars film, period.
Amen.
Best production values. I mean, my thing with the sequel trilogy as a whole um is all of the films are very I think they have their own little distinct look. Even like
Hmm.
the Rise of Skywalker and The Force Awakens,
Don't look the same.
yeah, they're definitely a little bit of a different production
Vibe.
values in there. And
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know what they did that was different, even though it's both JJ's, but that's the
Hmm.
thing with the sequel trilogies. They're all their own unique styles to them. And that's where The Last Jedi really shines because oh man, is that style stamped right on there, like
Hmm.
and and that's I think what really I don't even know where I was going with this. I lost my train of thought midway through.
I'm gonna see.
I'm
I'm gonna
I'm
Google and see what
I'm
this
not
is.
gonna lie. I lost my train of thought midway through,
Hey, it
but
happens.
it happens. It's okay. Talking about production here. No. I don't know. It's definitely my least favorite of the three. Um, I'm
I'll
not
just throwing that out of
huge.
me. I knew that though.
Yeah, I mean, I think everyone knew it, but I'm not huge on the direction it went with the build up from The Force Awakens.
Hmm.
Um, but I'm not huge on killing Snoke, but the film is about subverting expectation. Like nothing you expect to happen per se is supposed to happen. And killing Snoke was a choice and not one I'm huge on.
Yeah,
I would have liked more with him. I think he had a I think I also don't like killing Luke, but it makes sense. He had to die
fair.
at some point. I mean, I think I was just envisioning from all the build up a Luke and Snoke showdown in the third movie.
Yeah,
But I mean, I think that was a fair and a safe expectation for many. So I think just that changing the whole momentum from The Force Awakens or from what I was expecting and stuff really kind of, just did a damper on it for me. But
hmm,
as a standalone movie, I think it's completely fine. I think it's good. I think it's a good movie. I still think it's better than a lot of just films in general. Um, what have you been researching?
so yeah, I was googling this because I was curious about why the Rise of Skywalker looks so different than the Force
Oh, okay.
Awakens, and so I was like, okay, does it have a different cinematographer?
Maybe
Which
it'll
no,
jog my memory of what my thought was.
Dan Mendel is the cinematographer for both of them, but the Force Awakens was which ironically these is neither of the films that we're talking about in this
Yeah.
segment. But the Force Awakens was shot on film and digital.
Mhm.
So it used the Arri Alexa camera and the IMAX Mark III reflex
Okay.
camera, and also a Panavision Panaflex. But for the Rise of Skywalker, they used a Kodak 35 millimeter film for it, which
Huh.
is slightly different. So that's interesting. Um, So yeah, that was what I was seeing on quick searches because I was like, why? Because they do look like distinctly different,
Yeah,
and I was like, and the first I was like,
and
well, a
it's like
cinematographer will do that or the
it's
camera.
more or
So
less the only trilogy that has a distinct feel. I mean, 4 and 5 are very similar in look. I think 6 is still similar, but 6 to me feels a little bit like
God, I don't like
it's
six.
kinda don't get me started, but it's kind of like it's just like the shots aren't as dynamic. They're kinda just like almost like stiff, a lot of them. I don't know.
Yeah,
It's there's not really very much exciting blocking. I don't know.
yeah, it's not the best.
That's
We don't need
that
to talk about six. We'll talk about
yeah,
it
we'll talk about that.
eventually.
Well, yeah, that can have its whole episode. But and then the prequels all look completely the same. They're all even
Yeah,
though the 2 are shot on digital and the 1 is shot on film, or
they look the same.
they look all the only like camera movements or things I can think of that are distinctly different is Attack of the Clones has a couple random uh snap zooms just out of nowhere.
Yeah, those are
They're really
hilarious.
random. That's the
They're
only time it look like it's just out of nowhere. Anyway,
it's so funny. Um,
but yeah, it's the only trilogy that's completely its own vibe,
I
which I think
think.
I like. I think I like it more than the consistent look. But I
Mhm.
wish they all. I don't know. I think it's just because the Last Jedi is in there, which is why I say that I like it more than the consistent look, because
Yeah,
it's
because
just
the
a
look of the
beautiful
Last Jedi is
it's a beautiful film, dude.
unbeaten.
It like oh man, I can go on and on, but at
So
least
this is
at least about its production values. I can't go on and on about the film. I'm clearly I'm running out of things to say. I've talked too much about this film and I'm not big on it. So definitely
so yeah.
number
So
3.
it's your third of the sequel trilogy.
I'm passing the baton to you. Take it away
I'm on
because
the
you actually
opposite.
can appreciate this film way more.
Yeah, I'm on the opposite side. I'm on. It's my first in the rankings for the sequel trilogy. This is the Star Wars movie that is, depending on the day, my favorite Star Wars movie. It goes back and forth. Honestly, depending on which one I've thought about most recently, between like this and Rogue One, between which is my Star Wars movie. But I say that, and then I think about it more, and like it's definitely this one. Like I like The Last Jedi more, overall. It's my favorite Star Wars movie. So obviously the favorite of the sequels. As you were saying, the production value is just unreal. It's also like one of the only Star Wars movies to have just a like flawless production, like actual production.
Yeah,
Like they didn't have any hiccups. They finished a little bit ahead of schedule, if I'm remembering correctly, and
I think you're right on
everything,
that.
everything went fine. The
Ryan
director and
Johnson's
the
like, oh, yeah,
Ryan
okay.
Johnson is so
I
good.
should have talked on him because I fucking love
Dude,
him.
love Ryan Johnson so much. The director in the Jedi documentary also
Still haven't watched that.
slaps.
Still need to
Dude,
watch that.
so good. It's fantastic. Also insane. Like the just seeing the making of a movie at this scale is will always be wild.
Hmm.
It's one of the biggest movies you can possibly make. Like it's the follow up to Star Wars being back on the big screen. It's amazing. I again, like you said at the beginning of the segment, we had a whole entirely arguably too long segment devoted to this movie. In our previous episode, we were talking about like our favorite underrated things in Star Wars. And so I don't want to talk about it too much because I said a lot then that you should go listen to if you want more of my thoughts. But yeah, I adore this movie. That theater experience is something that like I'll never forget, and having that feeling of not knowing where things could go. And I really love the direction that honestly all of the characters went. Um, there's just so much in this movie that I love a lot. It's also, unfortunately, the film that like this combined with BVS the previous year, but like definitely this one is the
Trenches.
movie that like broke Hollywood and will like never get a new good movie again.
You
But it's
were
fine.
fighting
Not,
for your life.
dude. Yeah, I was in those trenches on Twitter like year after year when these movies came out because I was like, oh yeah, I'll ride or die for BVS, and then this came out and I was like, no, this is
Oh shit.
incredible. I'll ride or die for this movie, and so I was dealing with it. I was going through it. Um, but yeah, I love this movie a lot. It is, I think, fantastic. Um, I I understand some of the complaints. I get it. I don't agree with most of them. I do think a lot of them are like overblown. I think a lot of people just like don't want to, like there's a difference between being like this is wrong and I don't like this. Like those are
Hmm.
two different things, and I feel like a lot of people leap into the former and being like this is the incorrect thing, like way to do things in the story. And like
100%.
I don't think you can make that call. But
No,
like I like
I agree because as someone who doesn't really like the film as much as you.
Yeah.
Um, my thing is these people. I do see a lot of people who don't like the film, and but their main gripe is, like you said,
It's
it's
not what
wrong.
I wanted. Yeah.
But the thing is, that doesn't make the film. I mean, it can make the film bad because it's not how you wanted
Yeah, it can make it
the
less
story to
like
go.
not
Yeah,
enjoyable for you, but like
exactly,
that
but it's
doesn't
not a bad
equate.
film by any means, you just
Yeah.
gotta you work your head cannons around a little bit, use your brain, think a little bit, make those
Hmm.
gears turn. I wanna see the smoke coming out of your ears for some kind of justification on something. If you like
Yeah.
the franchise enough and you don't wanna ride a hate train and if you're fed up with how things are going, then that's okay, I understand.
Hmm.
There's been some misses, but don't look for like excuses to just absolutely send things into the ground just to be mad at like so one little thing was messed up in your Amazon product, so you had to write a 1-star review about all of the flaws you found. Like that's not how it
Yeah.
is. It's not a bad film per se because it's not how you the story you wanted. It just not what you were expecting. So I don't think
Yeah.
it's to be considered. I don't think, like I said, I think it's a good film. I think it's not my favorite Star Wars film. It's my least favorite Star Wars film.
Yeah.
But as a
Which is
film
fair.
in general, and I mean someone's gotta be at the bottom, like we said. But
Yeah.
as a film in general, it's still a damn good film. Like just
Yeah.
if take it out of context for a second and just watch it as a film and it's good. It's good. I
Yeah.
can't say it's bad.
I think people get too mad about it,
Yeah, it's
which that
absolutely ridiculous.
which
But
is the thing. But yeah, those are, I guess, my quick thoughts on it. Again, don't want to get too much into it. We talked about it for an
we
eternity in
yeah, straight up eternity.
in our
I
last
listened to
episode.
the episodes on the drive home from work, and I had to watch that episode in or listen to it in two
Who
drives
said it?
because
Yeah.
one drive was strictly uh, the Last Jedi.
Yeah.
But after the break, we're going to discuss the final film in the sequel trilogy, The Rise of Skywalker. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Frame of the Force. Before the break, we discussed the middle child of the sequel trilogy, The Last Jedi. Now we want to discuss 2019's The Rise of Skywalker. Alex, what are your thoughts on the ending of the Skywalker saga?
Oh man. So one, also, I think the description of the Last Jedi as the middle child is so funny. Just before before we get into it, but yeah. So the Rise of Skywalker, I also really loves this movie. As listeners who are paying attention will
You're a
be able
rare
to guess.
breed, dude,
Yeah. So this is second in my rankings of the sequel
which is why
trilogy.
you're rare.
Yeah. So yeah, which is such an odd ranking, honestly. Like I feel like most
If you like
people
The Last Jedi, you don't like The Rise of Skywalker and vice versa. That's what I've come to see from online discourse. So
see. Yeah, because like
I
I
need to
need to
hear what's going on
address
here.
the thing because like so many people are like, "Oh, the Rise of Skywalker is just like undoing everything the Last Jedi did and like spitting in the face of it," and like I don't. It's not following in line with the things that the Last Jedi set up necessarily, but I also don't think that it's like a big middle finger to the Last Jedi. I think that you can still draw consistency and through lines with the characters through all three movies.
Yep.
I do wish that it kind of would have gotten a different direction with the way that Kylo's arc goes. In particular, Zuko's blueprint was kind of like because like even if they are going to do the like him being redeemed thing, which they did obviously, which was not the original plan. I was watching, I saw a clip the other day. I don't know if it's a recent interview or not. I didn't like dig far enough to see, but it was Adam Driver talking on the Rich Eisen show, actually, which like just fun side tangent thing. He's like one of
I
my
think that
favorite.
is recent because I think I saw that and I was like, I gotta watch this, and I haven't watched it yet. So I
It's
think
one of
it
my
is recent.
favorite sports analyst media people. Actually, I love Rich. Anyways, it was a clip of him on Rich's show, and he was talking about the fact that like originally the idea was to have Kylo be like the inverse of Vader, where like at the beginning he's like trying to be evil and more unsure about it, and then like becomes more sure of it as the trilogy goes on, and like by the end is like full blown evil and not redeemed, which
Mhm.
like I do think would have been the arguably better way to do it because now instead we get like the carbon copy basically of like Anakin's arc and the fact that like he does come back around. Um, that said, I don't hate the way that his redemption is played. I do think it's kind of weird. Like there are a lot of things in this movie that are just like weird
Strange.
decisions. Yeah, they're just weird decisions. Like you can very much tell that it is in reaction to the response of The Last Jedi and them wanting to like pull things back and be like kind of safer, like bringing back Palpatine, doing all these things. And like I also though like, so it's tough because I think that a lot of these decisions I think are less exciting and potentially not the better way to do things. But then also, I have such a fun time with this movie, dude. Like, I still love Kylo in it, even though it's not necessarily the way that I wanted things to go. Like, Adam Driver is still great. We get some of the coolest things with Kylo in this. Like, bringing back Palpatine is weird, but at the same time, like super fitting to like he is the big bad.
Palpatine, that's
Yeah, like it's Palpatine, right? And
it's the
also,
Skywalker saga, you know. I mean,
yeah,
would I have
like
liked him to stay dead? Yeah, but am I surprised that he came back? No. I mean, that's been a concept for years.
yeah, like so it works. Like obviously somehow Palpatine's return's been a meme to hell. Also the fact that like his announcement came in a Fortnite like live event is the
Yeah,
funniest thing of all
I didn't
time.
even know like I don't think I knew
It's
about
so funny, bro. It's hilarious. I was playing the game at the time, dude. I mean, I still play Fortnite, but like hilarious that is a thing that happened. But like also, it's like my favorite Palpatine performance and outing. Like he's menacing as hell in this movie.
He's
His
an
makeup's
absolute maniac.
yeah, his makeup's fantastic. The costume's awesome. Like him shooting Sith lightning into the sky and taking out all of the
Badass.
like
Absolutely
resistance
badass.
is incredible. Like his showdown with Rey is great. Him just like not learning from his mistakes of a lightsaber being able to deflect his lightning and just obliterating himself
He's
is
got a whole fucking Sith cult with him.
yeah, dude, the Sith cult is awesome. Like Exegol's awesome. So like while the movie does make a lot of decisions where I'm like, this was kind of weird. Like I will say the one thing that it does like really backtrack on in The Last Jedi that I think was like the better decision in The Last Jedi is the like Rey being a nobody thing. And so I do dislike that we lost that. Like that we do have like where she's
I
not technically a nobody, but at the same time, while I think that I would have preferred like staying in that consistency of like that character trajectory for her, the other like the flip side of that is I do think that like being able to not ignore but like exist in spite of or like overcome what you came from and the fact that she's like, oh okay, well I was a Palpatine but like that doesn't matter and that doesn't define who I am, like I'm still going to be like who I choose to be, is also an equally powerful message and thing for her character. So like that still does work, I think. So like for basically all of the decisions in the movie where I'm like, well this is a kind of weird thing to do and like I don't really know, like I still find enjoyment in the decisions. And so it's like, I can't really hate it that much. And like, a lot of people will like point to like the like plot conveniences and like there's a bunch of MacGuffins in the movies and a bunch of like,
That's dagger.
yeah, like the dagger, the fact that it like when you actually like think about it for a couple seconds
Who the
makes
fuck made this?
no god like
Yeah.
it's impossible for it to make any sense. But like it's a movie, dude. That shit happens in movies
Yeah,
all
that's
the
the thing.
time. Like
You
it's
know,
just a
it's just
story,
whatever.
like dude, it's this is Flash Gordon, right? Like it's not, it's yeah, you just have to grant it that like no movie is meant to be like dissected to the nth degree and like thought about in that way, and like you're gonna find plot holes or whatever and everything, and like
Not
that
supposed to
doesn't,
be slowing down the fight scenes to find.
yeah, dude, fucking that's a whole thing. But yeah, like it's just you can't get mad about that kind of stuff. Like I guess I understand to an extent when there's like an egregious amount of those things in a film, like it does bother some people, and I get it, but like that's a really boring way to watch movies, in my opinion. And like you're not going to have fun doing that. Like you're doing it to not have fun at that point. And like if that's what you want to do, sure.
You're
But
doing it
like
to
for
get
me,
those YouTube bucks, baby.
yeah. So like, I mean, like I understand, I guess, but at the same time, like why you don't need to do that. And so for me, a lot of the things in the movie, though they are weird decisions, do still work. And then it also has the consistency of production value, which we've been talking about this whole time. Where like, I mean, it looks like an expensive ass movie that's like a really good, like well presented Star Wars film. And so I love it for that. And also, it does move as well. Like it's a very like
Yes, this one does.
it's so much happens in this movie, and it just like goes the whole time. And all of the set pieces are fantastic. It gives me two of my favorite lightsaber fights in this film, and one of the most unique lightsaber fight that we see in any of the Star Wars films, with like the dyad fight between
Mhm.
Kylo and Rey. That the dyad thing
That's cool as hell.
is another reason that I like argue against it spitting in the face of The Last Jedi. Like, it takes the most interesting concept from The Last Jedi and expands on it. Like, it does more with it. It becomes a pivotal plot point in the film and a pivotal practical thing in the film too, where like that fight happening in both locations is insane. It's awesome editing and set
Oh
design,
yeah,
and
it's
like
beautiful.
being able to bring like those are it's so cool. And also using their connection as a dyad to get Kylo out of his predicament at the end of the film, and like transporting the lightsaber, and like that's just such cool Star Wars force weirdness that
Weird,
is
yeah.
awesome. Like, I love that. And so like you get like Rey being all of the Jedi, and the voices, and like the voice, like I got chills just now like saying that. Like, it hits. It's fantastic. So like it does all of that, and then it also, like, I remember walking out of the movie and I was like, is this maybe my favorite Star Wars movie? Because it also does things in it that I have always wanted to see in a Star Wars film, like just from a straight like geek like power level, and like seeing stuff like play out with the Jedi and like force users in this way. Like the way, like the fact that we have Rey like pulling a star killer, even though it's a way smaller ship, but like stopping the ship in air and like trying to prevent it from taking off, and then her and Kylo like fighting over a ship with the force that's just like hundreds of feet above them, and then like shooting force light like Sith lightning at it is like insane. Or even just at the beginning of her like meditating floating in the air is like such an awesome thing to see a
Does
Jedi
a little
doing.
flip.
Yeah, like just does the like casual flip as she's like descending down, and then like the fight between them on the Death Star also being a great inverse of like the Mustafar fight. Like, now they're surrounded by water as opposed to like
Mhm.
lava and fire, and like that whole set piece is great. And then them like just jumping around and using the Force in the way that they are, like using the Force to block the sabers, which has now become a like staple in Force fights. Like, we see that all of the time now, where people are using the Force to like stop the blades, and like that happened in this movie. And so like it does so many things that like I love that we got to see it in a Star Wars movie. And it also does feel like a fitting conclusion and concluding chapter to not only like the sequel trilogy, but the saga as a whole, which I think is a really like, it's an impossible thing to do. Like, you were never going to please everyone with this movie, which
Mhm.
is a part of the reason that like it fails a little bit, because it does try to do that. Like, I think that they make a mistake
Doing it
in,
too much.
yeah, like in the fact that they were trying to please everyone, because like you can't, like there's no way that was going to happen. um but it does, I think, as good of a job as you possibly can. And I say that while knowing the fact that like a good portion of people just like don't like this movie and think it's awful, which is fair. Like, I get a lot of the complaints for this, arguably more than the ones with The Last Jedi, because I feel like the complaints with The Last Jedi is a lot of people just like not using critical thinking skills and being like bad, where like this one, I think a lot of the complaints are like more applicable and justified. I
Right.
just find stuff to enjoy in those complaints regardless of that. um but yeah, so I don't know, I love this movie. I have such a great time with it. Like, there's just so much for me to enjoy in it and like have fun watching it. And yeah, there's some stuff where like I think about it and I'm like, that's kind of annoying, and like I wish I didn't do that, or I wish that I didn't do this. But like at the end of the day, I just love it a lot. So that's why it's a number 2 instead of like 3 for me, because like the
Okay.
highs of it and the things
Kudos
that I
to you,
really
man.
appreciate, I'm like, I like the swings, even if some of them miss, as opposed to like the safety of like A New Hope for a New Generation. So like it
Okay.
like slightly goes a
You
little bit
are
above.
a rare, rare breed of a
Dude,
sequel
like,
fan.
did we
I
get
mean,
Ray
you
jumping over Kylo's TIE fighter in the middle of like, come on, dude.
and splicing it in the process? Yeah,
Yeah, like
absolutely.
get out of here.
No, you are a rare breed because you are one, a sequels fan, two,
Yeah.
The Last Jedi is your favorite, and three,
I
you
don't hate
think
the
the
Rise of
right. Yeah,
Skywalker.
you don't hate. Like, what is wrong with you in the
Yeah,
nicest
I
way,
don't know. I
the
got some
most
weird stuff going
respectful
on
way
up
possible?
here.
Like, and it's no shame because I mean, I love the fact that you find enjoyment
Mhm.
in all of them, even
Yeah.
though they're at times competing with one another.
Yeah.
So
I do. Oh,
kudos
dude, the
to
Kylo
you.
helmet thing does kind of piss me off. Can't lie, but like, but then see it like pisses me off that he did that. But then also the helmet looks sick. So like,
Oh, hell looks
it's
great
fine.
with the welding.
Yeah.
But no, so I mean, we've already went over my other two rankings, so this is number one for me. It
Yeah,
was number one for me the moment I stepped out of the theaters.
that's awesome.
Um, and it hasn't changed. And my reasoning being, and my reasoning still being, um, I think it for, and this is what I said to my dad when I left. What I said was, I think it did a really, really good job with
Hmm.
what it had to work with before it. And I'm not
Hmm.
just saying in terms of The Last Jedi. I'm also including The Force Awakens in that.
Yeah.
Like it took its two films vastly different from one another and tied the narratives together as best as it could, especially given the director change midway through and
Hmm.
everything, the whole rewrite and whatnot. I think
Yeah.
it did a really damn good job for the plate it was served up and what it decided to cook for dessert after that.
Hmm.
I mean, I think what I really what really made me happy. I do like Ray as a nobody more,
Yeah.
but what made me happy was that she was a Palpatine because
Interesting.
2015 Robbie, and
Oh God.
somewhere there's proof somewhere on a Facebook, but it's a comment, so it's so hard to find for me. I have to
Yeah,
find it the next time it just appears or whatever. But there is proof that I called Ray being a Palpatine after watching The Force Awakens
that's
because
so
everyone
funny.
was saying Obi-Wan, and I'm like,
Yeah,
nah. I'm like, nah. I gotta be different. I could see some Palpatine bullshit, like make it a little bit
that's so
spicy.
funny.
So I was very happy that that was a thing.
Mhm.
I still prefer the nobody, but I don't mind her taking on the last name of Skywalker.
Yeah, that's another thing that like people get way too mad
People
about that.
freak out about
They get
that,
way
and
too mad.
here is my thing with that. At Star Wars's core is two things. Number one will always, at least in my opinion, be hope. That is
Hmm.
the core foundation of Star Wars is just the word hope.
Yeah.
But number two, and a very close number two, because it's number one for a lot of people. It's the first thing they think of is found family,
Hmm.
and having that. This goes beyond. I mean,
It's both
yes,
of them.
I mean, Han and Leia marry each other. They're part of a found family. They end up marrying each other or whatnot in like the original
Hmm.
trilogy. But this is straight up like, oh my god, I was a nobody, or I'm going to say nobody loosely here because she's a Palpatine, but I'm not using that to
Hmm.
define her. I was just
Yeah.
kind of on my own, doing my own thing. I found this group of individuals, and that treated me like family and whatnot. And then the icing on the cake for me with all of that is they kind of air quotes adopt her,
Yeah.
and she officially becomes a part of that family, even though she was already with the rebellion or the resistance.
Hmm.
She was already like, they're all fighting the same fight, same page. But like, as much as I'm not necessarily huge on calling her Rey Skywalker per se, but I don't mind it at all because it is a core value of Star Wars and it is actually just full on exemplified and used in a film very directly, possibly like the first time in a film for Star
Yeah.
Wars. Other than I guess getting married, but you don't see the marriage and they're divorced by the times, or air quote divorced, um,
Hmm.
by the time seven comes around with Han and Leia. But this
Yeah.
is a real strong, in your face instance of that found family, and absolutely gets a seal of approval, thumbs up from me. Um, the dyad stuff, absolutely incredible.
Oh,
Huge
dude,
fan,
fantastic.
especially if you're a fan of the Old Republic or the Knights of the Old Republic, not the Old Republic, Knights of the Old Republic.
Oh,
With
dude, I got torn into one time. It was super early on in my account, but
oh boy,
I accidentally captioned it incorrectly. Oh my god, I had to delete it, dude, because people were not having it. I was like, all right, dude, fucking my bad. Jesus Christ.
with the Knights and just old.
Yeah, like I called something Knights of the Old Republic, and it was just the Old Republic, and people were like, ah!
Oh
Fucking,
my god.
you chill,
That's what
bro. They're
happens
like
when you're in a fandom with nerds, man.
fucking
Nerds
ridiculous.
gonna nerd, but
Yeah.
and that's not saying we're not nerds, but there are
Yeah,
those
yeah. I mean, we're getting
classic nerd. We are the straight up different. I call myself a nerd all the time. I am a straight up nerd,
100%.
but there are those stereotypical nerds, man,
Yeah,
and they will come out at you. um,
yeah, it's
but
wild.
no, what I love about the dyad is it's kind of like that Revan Bastila, like
Mm,
their own connection. It kind of validates that, kind of gives its own little thing, and kind of puts a little bit more context to it. Um, I mean, Revan is now quote unquote canon. I mean, I guess
right.
he's introduced
I
as
forget.
canon because of this film. He's like a
Yeah,
statue or something in the film, but you don't get
right. I
any of
was
that
about to say,
context in the
I
movie.
forget what exactly
Yeah.
the
I
thing was,
also
but it's
I
like
also
some.
don't quote me on this. I want to say Nihilus is mentioned, or I think Nihilus has a group. One of the groups is named after, like one of the
Yeah,
cults or whatever.
I
I don't
believe
know.
that's what it is.
Shouts to my boy
It's in
Nihilus.
one. It's in one of the like um, books.
Info
Like
books, yeah.
yeah, the info book
I can't
things.
think of what the hell they're actually called.
Yeah, I was trying to think of the name. Are they?
Guidebooks or whatever. There's a
Guidebook
name for
sounds
them,
right
and I am just completely
because it's not just a
the good
straight
old
up
coffee
encyclopedia.
table books, baby.
Yeah, it's not a straight up encyclopedia. It's like something
I
else.
don't know, but I know exactly what books you're talking about. I can't think of their name,
Skywalker.
but no, I love that. Yeah, it canonizes a bunch of Sith for funsies,
The
but
visual dictionary,
okay, yeah,
I
yep,
think.
that's exactly what it is. But yeah,
Yeah.
it canonizes a bunch of Sith because they had the perfect means to do so, and they're like, you know what, let's just make everybody happy. So kudos to them on that. Um, but no, yeah, the dyad thing's incredible. Like that's like you as you said, it's a great instance of building on something from the film previously, even though
Hmm.
it wasn't necessarily what it was presented as initially.
Yeah.
And another reason why I'm not a big Rise or Last Jedi fan is I'm a Finn Ray kind of guy, but that's okay.
Uh, yeah.
He said,
Yeah.
"Oh,
I mean, the Finn stuff is definitely the biggest fumble in the sequel trilogy, and
oh,
definitely
100%."
the biggest. Like, I grant you that complaint that about the sequel because, like, yeah, absolutely, like,
I absolutely love
bad
Finn, and they just did
ridiculous
him
stuff.
so dirty.
I mean, I arguably would have rather seen the Duel of the Fates script, which also was not perfect.
Oh,
I don't know if you,
that film was a mess,
I don't know if
but
you've read that
I
script,
also
but
kind
like
of selfishly would have liked to have seen it just
I would
because
have liked,
it's
I would
so
have liked
weird.
I would have liked to see that movie.
No, it sounds like it was an absolute hot garbage mess,
I would have
but I'm
loved
here
it. I'm
for it.
sure.
So,
I'm sure I would have gone to bat for that
Phantom
movie
Menace is a
too.
little bit of a hot mess too, and it doesn't stop me.
Um, but yeah, I mean, that's definitely the biggest fumble in the sequel
Yeah,
trilogy for
so
sure, like without question.
but so that's why I'm not huge on The Last Jedi. I'm a Finn Ray kind of guy, and I'm just a Finn guy in general. And
Yeah,
he got a little bit more things going on in this film, but I wish it was just a full on Stormtrooper rebellion. It was perfect. It was right there for the
yeah, dude,
take.
it was right there.
I mean, it was in the concept too. What are you doing? Why did you cut that?
Yeah, I don't.
Like,
It is cool to see him still lead like the group
yeah, he's still
and
like,
charge.
but dude, marching on a freaking Star Destroyer?
Yeah,
Come on,
dude.
that's sick as
Yeah,
hell.
that's
That's
awesome, bro.
absolutely
I don't
sick
know
as
how you
hell.
can hate that. Like, it's so
Yeah,
raw.
absolutely not. It's so good. But back up to what all started this little tangent was the dyad stuff, and like you said, it was an instance of this is not what I'm gonna do, but I'm gonna respect you. I'm gonna still take your threads you set up here. I'll spin it
Hmm.
my own little bit of a way, but I like that the Rise of Skywalker. It takes ideas from both films. It goes back to some things introduced in The Force Awakens. It builds upon some of the things that were changed within The Force Awakens to The Last Jedi, but builds upon it's kind of takes those two and meshes their plot elements set up, their seeds planted, and it takes those seeds and grows its own little garden out of it.
Yeah,
And it's not perfect, but none of the Star Wars films are really. I mean,
yeah,
they're all a hot mess somewhere here and there. Empire, well, that's my baby. People will slander me for calling it not perfect, but there's issues in it. I mean, there's issues
yeah.
in all of them. They're not perfect. They're not perfect films. Doesn't
Yeah.
mean I still can't call Empire a 10 out of 10. It doesn't mean Alex isn't still going to call The Last Jedi a 10 out of 10.
Yeah.
I mean, that's our ranking of them. But
Yeah.
objectively, they're not perfect.
I would
But
agree with that.
I love the fact that the Rise of Skywalker took what was presented to it and ran with it. And it ran with it in a way that it was still its own. It was fresh. Aside from the whole Ben redemption arc, that
Yeah.
I would have liked to. As I agree with everything you said on that. I'm not going to rehash that. But no, that was awesome. And this movie actually, this might be the only movie I can think of. I've definitely teared up during films. Now, yeah, no, this is probably the only one I can think of that will have me cry. That had me cry on two different instances while I was in theaters.
Oh, okay.
I cried when Luke lifted the X-wing
Okay.
because that is one of my that is. I mean, I think the carbon freezing chamber scene is a unanimous. That duel is a unanimous number one, but number two is Yoda lifting that X-wing in Episode 5.
Okay.
That also gets me emotional. Like that is that is just that hope in your face John Williams score screaming at you. Like that is just a beautiful, beautiful scene. So being able to see Luke come full circle and lift the X-wing was just absolutely, I was not expecting it and caught me off guard, and man oh man am I happy it happened. But number two, cried like a baby when this happened, when Chewie gets Han, or I guess Han's medal that Leia had.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cried like a baby because I was always been in that camp,
That Chewie
homeboy
should have gotten
deserved
the
his
medal.
medal.
Yeah.
And the fact that they acknowledged that little, how old was A New Hope at that point? 30 or 40, whatever, 40 something
Yeah. I don't
years.
even know. I don't even
Was that?
remember what
That's
year it
40,
came
yeah,
out.
42 years. 42
Bad at
years.
math.
I couldn't remember what 70 to the tens was. I couldn't remember.
Yeah.
After it gets off of counting from my fingers, it gets a little difficult. But no, that I'm glad that was a 42-year-old little like just accident kind of. I guess it was an accident. I don't know. Maybe it wasn't knowing George. Who the hell knows? But that was a nice little fan thing. That was that was a good little piece of fan service right there, and I wept like a baby when it happened. It was a very just, and there's a lot of instances of that in the film where it's just like there's
The
these
small
nice
payoffs.
little small payoffs, small moments, because it is the conclusion to your 9
Saga.
film saga. It's
Yeah.
not
That's the other
just
thing that I
that
think
trilogy.
it does really well, and the fact that it balances that of like being a conclusion to the trilogy, but also the 3 trilogies, which is insane.
Right, yeah. Definitely, and it has a little bit of everything from all. I mean, we all obviously know this is a direct sequel to the original trilogy. This trilogy is a direct sequel to the original trilogy.
Yeah.
That's a lot of words going around there, but but like you have Leia there, and just whatever kind of little callbacks here and there, the metal and everything. Sidious is back as the big bad, but also like that that Sidious connection ties back to the prequels. It's just borrows little things from everywhere, and I mean, I'm not a big sequels guy at
Yeah.
all.
That's
Like
fair.
if I had my way, I would see a different sequel trilogy told. I'm not gonna lie, but I accept them. They're canon. That's what we got. And like I said, make it fucking work, baby.
Yeah.
But
Love the attitude,
and
honestly.
I'm cool with it. But I mean, that being said, about my opinion on the sequels, I think it's a damn good film. I really like it. I really like it. I love the story that's told. It's fun. It's action packed. Keeps going the entire time. Stormtroopers fly all of a sudden. Great little fucking thing. I love that line. It's really stupid, but they fly now. They fly now. It's great.
Yeah. Oh, dude, it's so fun.
It's just a fun film, and it's got the fun levels of Solo, and we all know I rank Solo very high. That was also in our underrated films one, but I like that it doesn't take itself it's not like just so serious. It's fun. It has little goofy lines, goofy moments, but it gives you your payoffs. It ties everything up as best as it can, and it just presents a really solid story that I at least left the theater feeling both satisfied and just like a warm, like happy feeling, like a good, like what you want out of your conclusion to like this, this good versus evil kind of story, like this big saga. I left very satisfied, and I don't I have complaints about the sequel trilogy, but I definitely have the least complaints about this quote unquote hot mess of a film. But
That's
even
so funny because that is
like
definitely not the like the general consensus.
no, not at all. But I'm an oddball. My Star Wars ranking is bizarre. I can't wait for that episode because I'm a clown when it comes to how I appreciate these films. But yeah, no, I'm a fan. You can call me a
Awesome.
fan. It's not in my top 5. But it's still a damn good film.
Fantastic movie, honestly, if I do say so myself. But I think that just about does it for our
Yeah.
thoughts and rankings of the sequel trilogy. So a big thank you to everyone for tuning in to episode 16 of Framing the Force. Robby, where can the people find you online?
You guys can find me online at Robby_Weidemann. That's Robby with a Y _WEIDEMANN and at SW Shot by Shot. We are back, baby.
Hell yeah, love to see it. You can find me online at the Alex Batts, that's BATTS, and then also at Curated Star Wars, where I am also quoting the shot by shot posts. Not all of them because there are a lot of shots in these films.
Please
but
don't.
I quote a select shots from the film with GIFs of the corresponding shot. So be sure to check that out. And you can also be sure to subscribe here to The Aspect on YouTube and any platform where podcasts can be found. Follow us on Twitter /X, Instagram, and TikTok at The Aspect Co. A huge thank you to Peter Fraser for providing our series music. And again, thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you next time in a galaxy far, far away. Hey, thank you for tuning in.
If you enjoyed this show, then be sure to subscribe here to The Aspect so you never miss an episode.
And check out some of our other shows and videos here on the Aspect Network.
Thanks so much for listening, and we'll see you in a galaxy far, far away.